Welcome. My name is Mark Wilson. I'm one of the instructors focused on Cisco Contact Center applications here at Sunset Learning. Welcome to the Tech Talk webinar. We're discussing using the bulk import.
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. Your call cannot be completed.
Sorry, what was that? Okay. Thought I heard something coming over the sound. This is the using the bulk import in the PCCE R12 interface. There we go. So our audience is anyone who may be administering packaged R12, either at some point in the future or even now, and is interested in some of the changes that may have happened between the 11x and the 12x versions on how the bulk import would work. I still think of it as bulk administration tool, although technically it's referred to as bulk import. So we're going to see how to use the tool. We'll demonstrate. So goals to introduce it, demonstrate it. Well, actually, I've got a short demo on using the templates for agents and dial number, or for agents, but we can also use it to do some other types of configurations. We'll talk about that. And so that's kind of the goal, is how do we use the tool in the new administrative CCE web administration. So the topics we're going to cover is the steps actually needed for the bulk import. We'll go through a quick list of the templates that are available. A few of the features available in the templates, such as create, delete, update, etc. Won't go into a lot of detail on those, but at least introduce them and talk about some places where they could be used. And then I'll spend a little bit of time doing a demo of the bulk import, as well as using the bulk import to delete those agents. One of the things definitely wanted to point out for bulk administration is that there's pretty decent documentation under the packaged CCE administration and configuration guide. To access the tools, you go in through the CCE web admin, access overview, and then go to bulk import. There's a full set of templates available, and that's one of the first things that struck me about my experience with older releases of at least the unified deployment model, is the fact that you pretty much had to create your own templates. I know several occasions I would basically create an entry and then export it, and then use that to modify to create my template and my data file for bulk import. Now we have the ability to, they actually provide us with templates. So we can go in and see some samples on how to add agents, how to add call types specifically, and dial numbers. The inventory and the duplex inventory, those are used primarily during the installation. So during the initial installation, you've installed setup on the different servers, at least the ICM servers, and have the CVP server ready to go, and etc. You have SQL installed. But to actually deploy the packaged wizard, now it takes a template. And if you're doing a simplex installation, then you use the inventory template. If you are doing a duplex set of servers, you would then use the duplex inventory CSV. There's a CSV template for skill groups, as well as once you have the deployment running, you've got agents, you've got identity service configured, and you're ready to start moving certain agents over to single sign-on. There's a separate template for how we would migrate those users. One of the things to point out real quick is the fact that some of the rules that are available in those CSV files, there's a create rule and an update rule and a delete rule. And I'll show some samples here in a moment and kind of point out how those rules may be available, may be leveraged. But then new objects. Now, not every, this is one of the things I kind of ran across by accident, is that not every object will be added automatically. But when you're doing the agent bulk, you're adding agents in bulk, and in your template file, maybe you create a new agent team or add a new skill group. You can actually use the agent template to not only create or not only add the agents to the skill groups, but if they don't exist, then it will create those skill groups as well as agent attributes for precision queuing during the bulk import of the agents. So I thought it was kind of interesting. So I'll kind of go through and show some of the implications of that. The templates are actually referred to in the documentation as content files. And if you're doing updates, so if you're doing a create, or if you're doing a create, then you'll need to designate all of the fields if they're a mandatory field or required field. And if they're not, since it's a CSV, you just skip it, no data, and go right to the next comma to indicate the next field. In fact, when I was setting up and testing, it verified that my template worked. One of the times I got my columns, I was doing all text editing, and I got my columns out of alignment. So it actually I got several errors trying to import the CSV file, and it was purely because my commas were loose, and it was giving it one type of data when it was expecting a different type of data. So that's the create. The delete, you really need, I can't remember exactly, but I think there's two fields required, primarily the username of the agent that you're deleting. In fact, during some testing, I saw that it will have a tendency to error out during the import process if there's more data than just the rule and the username. If you're doing an update, during the update in individual fields, if you want to change a specific value, if you wanted to change a specific value, then obviously you would enter into that field. If you don't want to change a value and there's one already there, you just leave it blank. So you put your two commas with no space, no data in between. However, if you want to erase a specific value, maybe you want to modify a group of agents, you're going to move them to different skill groups or something, but you don't want to move them yet. You just want to take them out of their existing skill group membership. That's where I always think about the approximate symbol, but the little squiggly line, I know there's an official name that doesn't come to mind. But use that to indicate I want to blank this field in the configurations. When you're going through and adding agents, when you set up the attributes, you do have to set it as a name value pair. So in other words, if you're setting up an attribute and the attribute is called sales, and you have to define whether it's a proficiency or Boolean based. And if you put in something such as sales equals 5, then you're defining the name as sales and the value as 5. And the system will interpret that as being an attribute based, a proficiency based attribute. With that, let's go take a look at some of those files to begin with. So I've got a few of those CSV files where I've downloaded them and pull them over here to my laptop, and to hopefully improve the visibility, I'm going to actually just expand it, make it make the font a little bit bigger. But in the first column is an operation where we could create, we could update, or delete those records. If we're creating and we have an agent ID, such as in older versions, we might know that as the peripheral number. And in some cases, we might think of that as the login ID for the agent themselves, their agent number. If we don't enter this value, the system will automatically create one. Otherwise, here's a place for us to go in and enter what value that will be for an individual agent. What the username is going to be. If, just like whenever you're doing the configurations directly in the interface, if you were going to add a user and that user account in CCE Web Admin needs to be linked to an Active Directory account, then you would enter this in as a UPN value, just like you see here on this second entry for the updating of the username Neo at the domain cisco.com. Then we enter in whatever else is appropriate for the first name, last name, login, whether or not we're enabling SSO at this time for this user account, any description information, if we're going to enable agent state trace, agent desk settings, agent team name. The agent desk settings is one of the areas that did not seem to create for me whenever I was using this bulk. But if the agent team and the agent skill group name, if those did not exist, it did go ahead and create those for me. As you can see here in this example, for skill groups, we can actually make this agent a member of multiple skill groups using a delimiter of a semicolon. If we have attributes, then we go in and put the attribute as a name value pair. So Kung Fu equals 9, and then use the delimiter, and then actually notice Kung Fu equals false. So we've got both a proficiency-based attribute and a Boolean-based attribute. If they're supervisor or not, and if they're a supervisor, what teams are they supervising? If there's a department, other site information. If you have ECC integrated and this agent is going to be logging in as an ECE agent, then there's a column here listed for ECE person. So you can go ahead and set these agents up as an ECE agent at that time to include any information appropriately for screen name and email address. As mentioned earlier, if I wanted to delete any records, I could just use the delete operation and use something, either an agent ID or a username, to delete that agent's record. Some of the other ones to go look at. Call type. This was pretty straightforward. We can create, update, and delete the call types. We can build the call type name, the description, any service level threshold values, update service level type, bucket intervals, and department names. It's all pretty straightforward. Let's see. The dialed number template. Again, fairly straightforward. We can go in and specify the operation, the dial number string, whatever it's going to be, what routing type, description, whether it's going to be basically what call type. And again, this is one of those areas where if you don't have the call type created and defined previously, it would create it for you. what the email domain is. If we're going through CVP and we need to specify a specific WAV file that we want to use for ringtone, and then any other values as available. Skill group. Skill group, pretty much the same as the other entries. We can create, update, and delete those values. And then the other one that kind of falls into this category is SSO migration, where we have a CSV file that we can use to define which accounts, which users we want to move from a ICM based login to an SSO based login. The other two files here, inventory, as mentioned earlier, these are the files, the CSVs that we would use during an initial install, and we could use to create. I have not seen evidence that it allows a update or a delete for the inventory operations, but at least as a minimum, it allows us to go in and create them, as well as providing what the initial password access, any public address information, etc. During the installation, the wizard will look at this file and it has to pass certain parameters. For example, during an actual install, even in a lab deployment, it actually looks for the whether you have a publisher and 2 subscribers based upon the deployment configuration, and then the duplex inventory CSV file. This one has to be exact and complete. To include in the first 2 columns, it requires us to provide the information to access the virtual machine host, the ESX installation, basically, because it will go out and verify that not only do we have all of these VMs created and accessible, but it'll also make sure that they're configured correctly using the minimum requirements for the OVA based upon Cisco's design characteristics. So this will have to be a complete configuration list as well. Okay, so those are CSV files. Maybe asking, okay, great, how do I get to those CSVs? If you're in the PCCE web admin portal, you can go to bulk import, and at least from the main overview card. And bulk import is one of those tools that, if you think about it, adding agents, modifying dial numbers, that's going to happen on a routine basis. So we have both a card and a menu option for those settings, for a lot of those settings. Not all of them, but for a lot of them. However, bulk import, we only use it every so often. So it's only available in the cards under the overview. So if we click bulk import, this gives us the opportunity to go in and see what's the current list of imports. And if we click on the templates button, this is one of the places we can go and access all of the individual templates. And so if we click on the icon over here on the right, we can download the template for that value. In fact, the CSVs I showed you earlier, I haven't changed them, but they're basically the same as what we originally downloaded from this location. Then, assuming you've taken your CSV files And whether it's through a text editor or you're using Excel as a way to manage the data in a bulk format, much easier for yourself. We've got the files built with the data elements. We've got the create operation. We're specifying an agent ID, a username, what's the first name, the last name, what's the password, whether login is enabled or not, whether SSO is enabled, what my description is. I'm leaving the default for agent state trace, so there's no need to turn it on yet. Agent desk settings, that's one that actually I've tried to add in here, but it's wanting an existing agent desk settings. The agent team name, as you see, I've got 4 entries with one agent team name, and the other 3 has a different name. And I've also matched that up with a skill group name. The default skill group, I did not add it. I'm letting the system take care of that itself. And then the attributes. Here's where I've just gone in to create an attribute and set it equal to some proficiency value. The other fields are those others as mentioned earlier, if I'm a supervisor or not, if so, which teams, email address, etc. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over here to the bulk import, select new, and I'm going to select my file. Right now, that file is sitting on the desktop of my computer. Probably not what you do in production, but hey, it works for a lab. Selecting that file, bulk create, hit open. And I'm just going to give myself a quick description. And save. When I click save, it's going to start processing that file. One of the things that might be helpful, and one of the things I've experienced, is that if my template file could not be parsed initially, it would have never taken me to this point. It would have never taken me to the processing and showing me the list with the processing. If I click on that, oh, it's done now. It's completed, it's succeeded. Telling me the date and time, which host we use to do the import. If I click here, I could download the content file. And so I can download the content file that it actually used to create that information. It doesn't really look formatted. Oh, okay, it's one big line. There we go. That looks more appropriate. The other thing is we've kind of enjoyed on the current release is the ability to download the log file. If I download the log file, it shows me the entries for when it went through and what it did by step by step. So I can go in and verify. That can be critical because as one of my log files will show, this is when I was, oops, it's not there. One of the times I was doing a build of this, I had errors. And sometimes if I made it this far, sometimes I didn't make it this far. And it would actually tell me in a message in the top of the page that it was whichever line, and then it would actually tell me which entry. Here, it's telling me that the problem I'm having is that the agent desk setting does not exist, and it's not going to create it for me. So these log files can be very useful to help us figure out for sure which entries is formatted correctly or not, and which ones we need to go back and edit. In some versions, some earlier releases, like especially 12.0, in these types of screens, the content file and the log file download is a much different button. It becomes a icon with the disk icon, and then there's a little bar across the bottom, a white bar. You actually have to get the mouse directly on the bar portion. I'll point that out because if you run into that, you may struggle and say it doesn't work. And it should work, but you've got to get the mouse right in the right place. Okay, so if I'm going to go back and look at my users and agents. And now I'll be able to see. Now, I don't think the 5009 bulk job was the one that I'd done for this. These descriptions over here matches the descriptions that I had indicated whenever I built the CSV file. You can go in and look at the agent settings, their attributes, which skill groups they're members of, and I have those agents. If I now go look at organization and skills, I'll see here that my skill group, sales one skill group, was actually created as part of bulk job ID 5013. So that's kind of my good indication that, yes, indeed, this did not exist until I ran that bulk tool. And the members are the 4 members of the skill group based upon what I had in my template file. So the other ones, then the teams, same basic idea. Any questions so far? Alrighty. So next, so we've imported some of those agents and some of those other entries, teams, skill groups, etc. And realize, that maybe I missed something, and those agents, whatever project we hired those agents for, that project went away. And so those agents are left, and we need to delete those records. So here we have a CSV file using the delete entries. So now I'm going to go back to bulk. I'm going to process my bulk import, add it as a new entry. Select my file. And save. So it's now showing that it's processing that deletion. I could download the download log or the log file to verify the current status. And it looks like it's completed while I was watching because the total time became populated. And sure enough, my state went into a succeeded state. So now if I go look at my users and agents, those agents are now no longer in the system. Now I still have those skill groups. So the skill groups that we had added, it's still there. We never told it to delete those skill groups. and we have no members. So if we needed to delete those still, we would just need to come back into this tool, select which ones we need to delete, and sure, delete them. Same thing for the other settings. The agent teams, we would need to go in and delete those. And part of the reason why we need to delete them is because we didn't use the bulk template to delete those entries. Now, some of you that have used CCE in various deployment models over time, you may start thinking, okay, that's fine. But if you recall, CCE does this concept called logical deletion. I kind of think of it as an agent left, and we've got all that call history associated with that agent record. We don't want to delete the call history. We just don't want that person logging in. So one of the ways to do that, if we delete their record here, it's not in the system per se. It's not visible in the system, at least in the user interface. However, if we go back to Configuration Manager, our trusty old tool, and if we look, there is that still in Configuration Manager under miscellaneous tools, we still have deleted objects. And now we can see that here's those 7 agents that I deleted. There's a person record tied to each of those agents. Any routes associated with the skill groups in this case, as well as the skill group, and if there's any scripts defined. And then from here, as we've seen in the past, we could go in and delete these records to permanently delete it. So the initial step for anything that might have calls associated with it from a detailed data record perspective, TCD, etc., those will actually stay in the database in a logical deleted context until we go back here and completely delete them, fully delete them. Any questions?